You're watching the Small Business Showcase, brought to you by Sasfin, Suits and Sneakers. Hello everyone, Mark Sham here again with another edition of the Small Business Showcase. So in today's episode, I want to introduce you to a phenomenal human being named Mic Adler from a company called Hamba. This is a guy who is trying to tackle the world of small business and making the world better as his general motto. So what you're going to see in an interview like this is a guy who's got this near ADD-like moonshot mentality. He's really trying to bridge the gap between where his company is at today in the world of web development and app development and moving into some really exciting technologies like mixed reality, augmented reality, and virtual reality. You'll see that this is a guy who's really aiming large and he's got real clarity in terms of where he's at right now and where he's going. So without further ado, please enjoy this next episode with Mic Adler from Hamba.
So essentially, my passion is innovative technologies and more so on the virtual, augmented, and mixed reality side of things. So it does go hand in hand with Hamba and what we do, and we'll jump into that just now. But the value that I'm going to bring to the world, maybe not now per se because it's a bit early, but is to sort of bring about and help bring about this sort of XR, which is a collective term for VR, AR, and MR, to bring about this revolution and sort of help people kind of not ease into it, but really take this technology to the next level and just sort of help people live better lives through this technology at the end of the day. I'm not going to dive too much into what the technology is, what it does, what the capabilities are, what not, but that's going to be my core purpose. And that's kind of what we're working towards. And actually, just on that note, we're essentially developing products and designing ideas and concepts, sort of working towards that. And even though right now we're nowhere near that, and you know the society is we're nowhere near ready for that, we're sort of developing websites and apps and games and sort of working our way up to that, working up to that point.
But I can totally relate to that because when I originally started Suits and Sneakers, you kind of you're skating toward where the hockey puck will be.
Exactly.
Right. I think it makes a lot of sense to me. I want to go back a step before we get into even Hamba. Like, what gets you to the point personally that these type of technologies intrigue you so much? Like, what's the catalyst for your eyes getting this big for this kind of technology?
It's a good question. So I think firstly, just the nature of the technology, just like the immersion aspect of it, because I think when you're truly in a really good VR environment, like the whole world is just sort of switches off. And I know people say that like when you're watching a movie, you know, the whole world kind of disappears, like if it's a good movie. But at the same time, you're not truly immersed because you're still sitting in the cinema or you're at home or whatever. Whereas this over here, your brain, your eyes, everything about it just feels so real that it feels like this completely distant world. So that's on the VR side. And then on the AR side and the MR side, it's just the use cases of this technology. It's always about using technology to make our lives easier. So with that being said, I mean, just a really good example is that like anything you do on your phone, right? Anything sort of you interact with through the screen. So to do that, if you get a message, you pull your phone out your pocket, you look at the thing, you unlock your phone, you read the message, you type the reply, you put it back in your pocket. As opposed to if you're wearing an MR headset and you're walking and you're carrying groceries and bags and whatnot, this thing instantly appears in your vision. You sort of can reply to it either, obviously depends on how far down the line we're talking, but either with your virtual assistant or just with Neuralink. I'm not going to, that's a conversation for another day. Just by thinking about what you want to reply, you're replying to that. And just everything we do to remove these frictions, to remove these barriers, just in terms of like, because at the end of the day, a message is just a conversation. You sending me a message. And for me to take out my phone, you know, read it, type, whatever, send back, it's friction as opposed to if you just asked me a question, I responded. And that's kind of what XR is, because now that's how we started with technology, is that we went to screens. We started with screens, and now we're sort of moving away from screens to this, like these virtual overlays and these virtual environments. And that's what really excites me about the technology.
Absolutely. And I mean, I guess you brought up Neuralink there to a point. Like Elon Musk constantly talks about thumbs being a major, it's slow.
Yeah, it is
right?
slow,
it's like, okay. So, I mean, that makes sense to me, and it's really down my alley because in general, I talk about technology as a means to an end, and if we use it correctly, we can actually make human beings better. We can make people more human and less human. It sounds counterintuitive for some people, but I absolutely believe it. So let's go back a step even beyond that, and I'd love And actually the terminology, just so for the layman's out there, when you're talking about AR, you're talking about augmented reality, right? VR is virtual reality, and MR is mixed reality. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, got it. So if anybody who didn't know that, now they do. So tell us a little bit about Hamba. What do you do? Where did it start? And what is your unique selling proposition to the world as Hamba?
Okay, so Hamba, like I said, it's a bit of a step back from the whole XR side of things. We started in, I think it was either 2017 or 2018. I think it might have been 2018. And the whole premise of Hamba back then was that small businesses were completely sort of overlooked. And I know it's always the thing. It's always the case with small businesses, and obviously, that's why you got this show. But the whole thing was that no one was really providing good quality services for small businesses. And when I say services, I mean website development, I mean marketing and sort of design work in terms of designing banners and adverts and whatnot. So we started it as a very, very, very general kind of approach. General in terms of our services, and then general in terms of our target market. So we knew that it was small businesses, but it could have been a restaurant one day, it could have been a yoga company the next day, it could have been something else. It was just a typical kind of full service agency for small businesses. And over time, as we sort of progressed, we obviously just started to niche down, because we're not going to get anywhere. If we're a jack of all trades, we're not going to get anywhere. So we started niching down, and we sort of saw that there wasn't a lot happening in the dev space. So you had like the big dev companies who were taking care of like your Naspers and your Sassels and those kind of guys, but there wasn't really anything like in between, and it's sort of that immediate kind of thing. So we started working towards that. And in doing so, we started developing and designing websites and apps and games, although games is a bit of a separate thing, because it's more of like a sort of driving behavior as opposed to sort of use cases and whatnot. So we started getting more towards the dev and design side of things in terms of websites and apps and whatnot. And just since then, it's just been magical. And as we've been going, we've just been getting just sort of more niche, just sort of laser focused. I mean, right now, kind of our big focus is developing and designing websites and apps for B2B companies in South Africa. That's our focus, essentially. Yeah. Yes, we do have clients around the world that we do service, and yes, we do deal with other sort of sectors like e-commerce for like retail for brands, and maybe we'll do websites for like hotel groups or restaurant chains or whatnot. But our speciality lies in developing, designing websites for B2B. And then we even took it a step further. So yes, there's no one playing in that B2B space, especially, I mean, there's like a few full service B2B agencies in South Africa, I think maybe like 2 or 3. Then we took it a step further to design and develop websites and apps for these B2B companies. And now we're taking even a step further to essentially have the signature process, whereby we literally, at the end of the day, it's just about looking at the objective of that website. And with B2B, it's always about generating leads. So it's whatever we can do to generate as many leads as possible for that company. And that's kind of where we're at the moment. It's just using our signature process to develop as many leads for these companies as possible. Because what we found is that a lot of these B2B companies, they've got a website and they're not happy with it. But they kind of think, what damage is that doing to us? We've got our marketing efforts, we're doing LinkedIn ads, we're doing Facebook ads, we're driving it to the website, but they don't really think about the leads and how the leads are dropping off on the website. So we're kind of educating them about that and revamping the site and using all the latest like UX and UI trends and CRO, which is conversion rate optimization. And that's where we're at the moment. What would you say your sweet spot is as Hamba? Like outside of the core skills that you've mentioned and the target or the niche that you're going, because there are spaces like yours that there's lots of people in the spaces, even if I know you've niched down. But my question to you is like, what is the spirit and the soul of Hamba? Why should I come to you as opposed to one of your competitors? That's a good point. So, and that's kind of something we've been exploring recently as well, is the why, not sort of the how. It's almost like the why we do what we do. And it all kind of lies in strategy. That's just, we explored multiple ideas, but it all comes back to strategy. And why I say strategy is because at the end of the day, if we understand the client's objective, that's the starting point, right? But now it's just about the execution plan to get there. So let's say, for example, you got a B2B client or just any client who wants a website, and they'll approach 5 different agencies, right? And they'll say, we want to revamp our website. And some of the agencies will say, okay, cool, but starting off with what's objective? And even those who start off with what's objective, there's infinite ways that you can execute that plan. And that's kind of where we shine, and that's kind of our whys in terms of utilizing the best possible strategy to bring their website to life to achieve their objectives. And that's why we do what we do. And we love it. I mean, we've been falling in love with the whole process, and it does feed into the app side of things, because a lot of time the app could be sort of a component of the website,
yes,
or it could be sort of a whole standalone project. They've got like an idea for a startup that's a spin off their company, or automating their services or whatever in an app. And it's the same principles, essentially. Yeah. It's all in the strategy of execution.
Because, it's interesting from our end with the Small Business Showcase. What attracted me to you is you were actually nominated, but we share a similar space in that we're both based here at WeWork. And it's very interesting because on the odd occasion, I take my laptop out of the studio that we're in right now, and I go sit there in call it like the center space, the community space, and you just look like you are hustling all the time. You are constantly walking up and down the hallways. You're on your phone, you buy a whiteboard. It just strikes me that you are constantly on the go. You're really hungry. And I think, again, part of why the showcase is so powerful is it's about showing to the world how difficult entrepreneurship actually is, and shining a spotlight on the people who are just knocking it out of the park, arriving every day, giving it their best, really hustling. And that's how you come across to me. Whenever I'm outside there, I'm always watching you do this thing. You're like always busy. And I think you just seem to me as someone that is super hungry. Would you resonate with that? Is my perception of you correct?
No, it's accurate. I think, listen, definitely hungry. I think the walking up and down is more an ADD kind of thing, but definitely hungry. And I think at the end of the day, all the small businesses can attest to this, is that when you're working for yourself, it sounds obvious, but you know what I mean? It's all about what you do in the day. So you've got X amount of hours per day, and what you do in those hours is up to you. It's completely like the result that you generate, and the position that you're in right now is a result of what you've been doing. And if you get to work and you're kind of thinking, you know what, I'm going to do a bit of this, I'll do a bit of that. There's not really direction, there's no clarity, there's no anything like that. At the end of the day, you might as well just work for someone, because you're not going to really get anywhere. If you've got that clarity, if you've got that drive, if you know what needs to be done, and you're sort of setting up these goals and these habits, and you're tracking everything as you're going, and you're really making a difference, and you're really giving back, and sort of emphasis on the giving back, then 100% just carry on and just keep doing what you're doing. But I think that's a lot of people don't understand that, because I think a lot of people, they like the idea of startups, and they like the idea of entrepreneurship, but they just get to an office and they'll rent an office and they'll be by themselves and they'll quit their job and they'll do the whole dramatic thing. They get there and they're like, cool, what now? Yeah. So that's a big thing, and I think it's a thing that we probably definitely want to emphasize for small businesses, especially within South Africa, is that clarity is everything. Because at the end of the day, the small businesses drive economic growth, but if there's no clarity, they're not driving anything. So just once again, emphasis on that. Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. You can also look very busy while not actually going anywhere. Exactly.
And I often say to people that entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, but everybody should try once. I don't know where that saying came from, but I heard it and it really stuck with me, because the skills that you learn, if you get it right, are very transferable across life. So, for that and many other reasons, I have this real soft spot for small businesses. I want to pose two last points to you as we close. The first one is, if you wave the magic wand, where do you see yourself and Hamba in the next year, 2, and 5? Give me that, and then I'd love for you to close off with a call to action.
Cool. So I think, I wouldn't say waving the magic wand, because we've got like some interesting objectives. We've got like our 5-year plan feeding into our 3-year, into like our 1 year, into our 6 month, 12. Like we've got this whole thing kind of mapped out, and we're on track with it, thank goodness. So where we're planning to be is essentially a global dev house, and on the forefront of XR technologies. So right now, Hamba is over here. The XR thing is over here. We're trying to bridge that gap.
Yes.
So we want to be on that forefront. So long story short, Apple will announce their headset everyone's going to start panicking and wanting to get into that. We're going to be on the forefront. We're going to develop these products, these platforms, these apps and whatnot for these headsets, because it's literally, instead of having a 2D website, you're going to need some sort of 3D kind of environment that people can interact with your brand. And we want to be on the forefront of that space. And then not just within South Africa, so we're still going to 100% be grounded over here and based over here and have our headquarters over here, but look to have sort of our sales offices and our networking and whatnot in North America, probably Canada, but yeah. So that's sort of our.
Yes. I love it because you're a man with a plan, and
exactly.
I think to people on the outside, you will look either obsessive or crazy, or do you know what I mean? I understand it really well. I can see how clear you've given this a lot of thought. I love it. Mick, that's your close-up camera over there. What I would love for you is, I want to give you a spot to just kind of close off. For anybody that's watching, this is your occasion to create any kind of call to action or leave them with any thought that you wish.
Cool. So I think if I had to sort of leave it like this, it's that a lot of small businesses and medium businesses in South Africa, it's difficult to look at your website and sort of know if things are going wrong and sort of if you need a revamp. Chances are, I'm not going to say you do because I don't want to sound too salesy and it's like you need us, but it's an element of, if you're not happy with it and if you feel like it doesn't represent you, even just get in touch with us. I think the whole thing is that we're out there to provide value. So if you need any sort of audit, any sort of advice, any sort of strategy around websites and generating as many leads as possible, especially in the B2B side, as well as B2C and whatnot, just get in touch with us. So I guess my call to action is just reach out, just say hi. We'll set up we'll grab a coffee. We can set up a meeting. We can chat about your website, where it's at, where it needs to be. Just lay out some plans. If you want to go ahead, we can go ahead. If not, we'll just give you the tools that you need to do it yourself, and that's it.
I just want to take this opportunity to give a big love to Sasfin for helping us put the Small Business Showcase together. Literally, without them, none of this would be possible. So here's what I'd like from you. Number one, please support these small businesses. A really easy way to do this is just to like and share this video so that more people can see this. And if you have a small business that you'd like to nominate because you've dealt with them and you love it, please let us know. Get in touch. Chat to you soon.